From a $25 million scam to massive data breaches affecting millions, it's no wonder that a potential cybersecurity attack keeps many people awake at night. In a world obsessed with technological solutions, we've overlooked our greatest asset and our greatest vulnerability in cybersecurity: humans. From insider threats to phishing emails to malicious ransomware, having good cybersecurity hygiene is key to protecting you and your customers' data and information. Welcome to Emerging Tech Unpacked, an educational and inspirational podcast series that unpacks emerging tech topics and STEM careers with diverse perspectives. My name is Lucy Lin, and today we'll be unpacking how we can protect ourselves better with Human-Centric Cybersecurity with Medibank's Head of Security Awareness and Disability Advocate, Daisy Wong. So welcome to the Emerging Tech Unpacked podcast. My name is Lucy Lin, and today we'll be unpacking human-centric design with our expert, Daisy Wong, who is the Head of Security Awareness at Medibank Private Health Insurance. I'm so excited to have you here, Daisy. You are an incredible person. I'm such a fan. And welcome to the Emerging Tech Unpacked podcast.
Thank you so much, Lucy, for having me.
Well, so the ones who are listening to us on this podcast, and you cannot see Daisy's incredibly fabulous pink hair, it's very bright and is very amazing. And the people who don't really know you, Daisy is a fabulous woman in cybersecurity. She's actually also in a wheelchair, and she's an incredible advocate for disability. So I really think you're an inspiration, Daisy.
Thank you so much, Lucy. Did you notice my wheelchair was also pink?
It was. I did notice that.
It matches the hair.
a
It
pink
matches the
thing.
hair.
Let me guess what your favorite color is.
Blue. Must be.
So there's so much to talk about and so much to unpack in terms of cybersecurity. But I really want to start with your career because I know you've come from a marketing background and now you're in now you are in cybersecurity. So can you tell us a little bit about the skills that potentially you have brought over from these two different disciplines?
Yeah, 100%. So I did uni. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. So I did university. I did an arts degree, and I did behavioural studies. So it was all the human behaviours, how you change them, attitudes, and all that. And then my other degree was Bachelor of Business, and I majored in marketing. So I always say this. I always thought I was going to be selling lipstick at L'Oreal. Like I know, like you said, your audience might be, listening to this in the car as a podcast. But if you do watch the video, I really do like my makeup. I spend hours, watching how to improve, and it's a passion of mine. So I always thought, be really that was my passion, that I was going to do marketing for cosmetics or fashion or something like that.
Yeah, I
But yeah, most people guess that. So then, as life happened, the global financial crisis happened when I graduated, and I wasn't able to get a marketing job, but I had all the skills. I also dabble in a little bit of influencing. Lucy, I don't know if I told you. I've got a
influencing.
food and lifestyle. I've got a tiny following on Instagram with 27,000. That is small compared to the big fish out there. So I kept that up, as keeping my marketing skills up, basically marketing myself. But my first job was actually at IBM as a graduate, and I was a project coordinator. No idea what that meant. You know what I mean? All I know is I got a job, my first job, and that was when I started doing, procurement, software procurement, the contracts and things. I did that for 6 months, and then I moved in to the storage team, so moving data center, servers, Wintel, and all that. Mid-range, I did that for 2 years. I still wasn't sure if IT was for me because, I had gone from marketing, really creative, doing it on the side as a hobby for my own social media, to then day in, day out, I was, organizing changes, attending change advisory boards, cabs, and all that. And then unfortunately, that role was made redundant after 2.5 years as a graduate.
Oh.
Not know that happens. Like, I
Yeah.
always just thought
How did
graduates
you
were.
feel like as a grad and you just be made redundant?
Oh, I felt so unwanted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, as you said, at being a person with being a woman as well in a IT, that's already hard enough.
Mm.
But also add on having a physical disability.
Mm.
So, I was talking to a friend the other day, and then I make so many more decisions because of my disability, and it is so tiring, the mental load.
Mm,
Going to work isn't just grabbing your bag with your laptop and going.
mm,
It's working out. How long does it take for me to go to the bathroom? How long is it going to take for me to get from my house into my car? What are the steps? These are all things, right? And then multiply that when you have a new job.
yeah.
Where's the office? Do you have parking, etc. But anyway, I wasn't sure at that point. I really wanted to jump back into marketing. I was like, done IT for 2.5 years, not feeling it. Maybe I should go back to do marketing. But Lucy, I'll be completely honest with you. I didn't have the courage to, because everyone was telling me marketing's probably an industry that's less understanding of physical disabilities. You have to run a lot of events, and as simple as, how do I help move boxes for an event?
Mm,
You do an activation event in a shopping center, and I've come a long way of practicing the art of asking for help. But as a 23-year-old, I wasn't very good at it.
yeah.
But you don't want to ask for help. You want to minimize your disability. You don't want to be a nuisance.
Yeah.
So I decided, I think IT is for me. I know we've had COVID, and we all, many of us now work from home, or at least hybrid.
Mm.
But IBM was very good. Like, even I think, yeah, when I started in 2012, I was able to work from home at least 1 or 2 days a week,
Oh, that's
which really helps with my managing my pain levels, driving into the office, which takes about an hour each way, etc. So I made a conscious decision that I was going to stay in IT. And then that's when I landed my first, cybersecurity job in one of Australia's largest banks. I was in the penetration testing team. So for those who don't know, a new system, a new product, IT product might be launched, and the penetration testers try to basically hack into it. So
mm,
instead of waiting for the, black hackers, the threat actors do it, you have, white hackers who work for your bank or your organization to try and break the system. So that was my first cybersecurity role. That was not what I'm doing now. I don't even know if what I was doing existed. I was just put into a very technical role. I was helping them schedule the penetration test, when it happened, how much time they have to do it, is the report done, is the report written well. I was like another kind of scheduling coordinator
yeah.
assistant.
And you're not doing
And
the actual technical penetration testing.
no, I wasn't doing the actual technical, but I picked up enough to be able to hold a conversation. And
Mm.
the main thing, and this is where kind of a tipping point for me, was I learned how to talk cyber. So there's a lot of jargon. There's a lot of, the reports are very hard to understand.
Mm,
Business owners who are trying to market and sell a product don't understand. They understand that the penetration testing needs to be done, but they don't understand what this report means. So I was sent in there to help translate. So we're not going, for instance, a new Apple Watch app update. You want to update with some new feature. We can't, the penetration testing team, security cannot approve, because there are vulnerabilities, there are threats, the coding isn't right, you need to fix it. But that may throw out the business's timeline, right? Because they've given us 2 weeks to do testing. They might not have given us enough time to remediate. So then, how do you explain to them that, what does this vulnerability, security vulnerability or threat, equal into business dollars
mm,
and your reputation? Because if you keep going to the business owner or the private owner and say, there's a, security score of 4 out of 5, that doesn't mean anything. But if you're able to say, if we release this, and as little as 5% of customers get hit, you know, X amount of dollars will be taken, and our reputation will suffer, shareholders, share price, etc.
Yeah, so you
So
did
I
all the
started
business
doing.
talk for the
So I did all the business. I did the translation between security and business. At this point, I was told that I might be good at something called security awareness, and I was also quite pigeonholed, if I had to be honest, like, because I was in a very technical team, but not in a technical role.
Yeah.
And whenever I asked for career advice, what I should do next, I was constantly told, "We're not sure, Davey. You're not technical enough."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess, is this what I'm like? Have I reached the ceiling already? Do you know, as a female in the cybersecurity industry?" But I had nothing to worry about, because that role was also made redundant.
Oh.
So
Oh my gosh.
So
I'm
so
seeing
I
an unfortunate pattern, Daisy.
very
You're very
unfortunate.
resilient.
Oh, very, very unfortunate. I suffered 2 redundancies, at the age of 30.
Wow.
So, again, unfortunately, a lot of women, and I'm sure, Lucy, you would have experienced it as well,
Yeah,
but,
you know what? I've gone through a redundancy too, so, I
Yeah,
think most people have. It's
yeah.
not shameful to admit anymore. I think I
Oh, not at all.
too much shame around
Yeah. I
it.
used to say,
Honestly.
I was made redundant, and
Yeah.
then a girlfriend picked me up and said, "No, no, no, your role."
Role was made redundant, correct. And I
Yeah,
always say that too. I'm always saying it's not me that was made redundant. My role was made redundant. We had a new
that's right.
CEO. There was a change of regional direction. I was leading a regional team. Therefore, my role was made redundant. So,
That's right. Yeah. So, did that, and then, I'll try and fast forward with this for you, but then, I wasn't sure if I should stay in the industry, but, at that point, I had about 5, 6 years experience. To start again, you're gonna have a pay cut. I wasn't sure if I was, hindering my career progression or not, so then I ended up, doing my Prince 2 project management certificate, and I became a cybersecurity project manager.
mm,
Because of my penetration testing experience, I did that for 10 months, and one of my projects was a security awareness campaign
mm,
for a Victorian government agency, and I think I found my calling. I loved, talking to people. I loved presenting and explaining difficult security concepts in pure, not even business, Lucy, just like layman's term.
yeah.
And a lot of the times, I think people might focus a little bit too much on work, like how to protect work, how to
Mm,
protect your work laptop, how to protect,
yeah.
and it's obviously important. But I think if you're able to educate people that the skills you learn at work are also applicable at home to protect your kids, your elderly parents, your siblings, your friends, it's a lot more powerful
Yeah.
because there's something in for them.
Yeah.
So then that was my first full-time cyber security awareness culture role in Victorian government. Did that throughout COVID, but that was definitely an experience. How do you engage with people completely remotely?
Yeah.
That is definitely, there's no donuts, there's no free cake, no catering, nothing. So that was challenging. I did that for about 3.5 years again. I moved to Flybuys, Australia's largest loyalty program.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Medibank 6 months ago.
Great. So now you're the head of security awareness at Medibank. As you said, is a health insurance company. So what's some of the responsibilities you do? And can you tell us a little bit more about human-centric cybersecurity? What is
Yeah.
it in a very non-jargon way?
Yeah, 100%. So I was brought in 6 months ago to help with, so security awareness was done by others in the team, but they didn't have a dedicated resource. So my responsibility and remit is to identify, the incidents, the problems, the security incidents and events that are maybe caused by humans, and how we can improve their knowledge and skills. We want to help our employees understand security threats so they can better protect Medibank, but also themselves. Interestingly, I only realized this when I started, but Medibank actually comprises of 3 businesses, and they all 3 businesses are under my remit. So there's Medibank, private health insurer, as most people would know. AHM is our more young, hip, they're a wholly owned subsidiary, which is private health as well. And then our last business, though, which I'm personally, as a person with disability, I'm very passionate about, is AMPHA. They are all our clinicians. So AMPHA businesses are mainly based in Adelaide and New South Wales. But think of physios at home, nurse at home, GPs on call, and all 3 businesses, because they have their own culture, it's very how I engage with them is different as well. There's 3 different approaches. So that's kind of my role in a very quick nutshell. Feel
Yeah.
free to ask other questions. But in terms of what do we mean by human-centric cybersecurity? So I think for those who know or have heard about cybersecurity, you might think of the CIA triad. So have you heard of that?
Oh, what is that? Please.
So, cybersecurity, we often talk about the CIA triad, and that is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These are
Okay.
the 3 things we are trying to protect. So, confidentiality is obviously, your private information. If you go to, store your private health records with us, that's confidentiality. integrity is ensuring that that information is accurate. Because if you think about you're going to have surgery, we need to, first of all, protect your privacy, but we need to ensure that when we say Lucy Lin has an O blood type, it's actually accurate.
Mm,
Like the integrity of the data is really important.
mm,
And the last one is availability. So when I need to know what Lucy's blood type is, I need to be able to get it immediately because this is, life or death, right? You're
mm,
doing surgery. So that is kind of what cybersecurity is trying to involves. It doesn't really talk about the humans.
mm,
It talks about a lot about data. I'm not sure if you heard of, people, process, technology. I feel like this concept, when you apply it to cybersecurity, we often think about the technology. So, you use tools to protect tools,
mm.
right? And then there's a lot of processes, a lot of reporting. There's like government agencies that require us to report. But I think, unfortunately, a lot of the times, the people who are your employees, your customers, your vendors, your suppliers, are left behind, or they're not a priority to protect.
Yeah.
So this is where the human-centric cybersecurity comes along, and we want to put the human in the center.
Amazing. I love that. So it's pretty much all about focused on cybersecurity, but from a culture and culture change perspective as well. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yep, that's right.
So how do you then foster a stronger security culture within organizations?
So that's a really good question. It's not easy. I want us to call it that first. It's not easy, especially depending on the size of your organization, the business, the services. So I went from an organization with less than 400 employees to now over 5,000.
Right.
So it is hard. But I think it's all about identifying. If you haven't had a dedicated resource before, I would always say identify your organizational culture first, because security culture and organizational culture need to match.
Correct.
They're completely separate, right? Like it doesn't make sense. So I think identify that. And then my top tip is always to identify the top three threats your organization is facing, and then the top three behaviors you want to change and or reward. So for instance, a lot of us, would have heard don't click on links. So that's a behavior we want people to stop doing. But to be quite honest, it's not feasible, right? Like because we deal with so many links every day. What I like to see and reward more is reporting.
Yeah.
We always say, like, took this from another friend, but we always say deleting an email that may be malicious protects you, reporting it protects us all because it allows your security operations team to look at, who sent this email and maybe block it from a domain level. So no one else in your organization is going to receive this malicious phishing email.
Mm. So it's raising more awareness from more than just an individual perspective, but trying to make sure that other people know about it as well. And is that how you can then culture change?
100%. So I believe, I know my title is awareness, but I do think, to shift culture, you need to have awareness first. So
Mm.
people need to know about security, know where to go and be aware of it. But that I believe awareness is a little bit one way,
Yeah.
while I think culture changes both ways.
Yeah. And I feel like there needs to be a lot of education and training by the sounds of it as well. Is that correct?
100%.
How do you make cybersecurity training more fun? Because I tell you what, I've been to a few organizations and they have been a snooze fest. So how
Yeah.
do you make it more fun and engaging and interesting?
Well, I first of all, I think it helps, even though I've been told many times I'm not technical. I have since gone back to do my graduate certificate in cyber to, strengthen my knowledge and stuff. But I think it helps that I didn't come from super technical background.
Yeah.
I think this is where I can also bring the marketing,
Right.
the marketing skills, make it engaging, use the appropriate language, use examples that are relevant. So, like I said to you before, our employees that work in corporate are very different to our employees in the call center, are very different to our clinicians. So, instead of just using the same content, so the messaging can still be the same. Don't reuse passwords. Think before you click, check with the sender before you respond. These are all the same. The how you package it can be different.
Mm.
You market it different to them. You
Yeah.
speak their language and use examples that actually make sense to them.
Yeah. Are you using a lot of storytelling techniques as well?
So many
Yeah.
storytelling, and I'm always making up personas. So this one I didn't make up. Nurse Nancy is my best friend. She's a nurse.
Yeah.
I always bring her along to talk about, how she experienced a cybersecurity incident at work and how she, had gone from basically ignoring everything I said to now an advocate at work because she understands the impact. She had nothing to do with 3 leaks because the cyber incident caused the network to be taken down for about 3 leaks.
Yeah. Wow, I love it. I love how
Yeah,
you're using personas to
yeah.
the language and understanding easier to understand. So that's great.
I also had Alex the park ranger when I was at the government. I'm not sure why. I don't know. I just made Alex up, but Alex was the park ranger. He spends most of his time in the in the parks, but he has a phone with emails. So how do we make it engaging for him? And I'm a strong believer of flight sizes.
Yeah,
And also, timing is really critical. If someone spends the effort and time to report something, that is the perfect time to educate.
that's true.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Great. Well, you spoke about wrong clicks before, and we spoke about this before. Like I've been at workplaces where some of my colleagues have been a bit naughty and they clicked on the wrong links, and then there's been some malicious ransomware that's been allowed into our systems. And then you also read things like that Reddit employee who's interacting with a deceptive landing page, and then they've also allowed accesses to, Reddit systems. So, how do you stop people from, I wouldn't say stop them from clicking, but how do you educate them about their behavior to maybe even just stop and think a little bit more before?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not a huge fan of fear mongering techniques. Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, again, like I said to you before, it's not feasible. Every day at work, we need to click on a link, whether it be a OneDrive link or the link we use to record this podcast. Links are going to exist. So I think it's less about don't click on links. I think it's just slow down, and I think a lot of us are guilty of it that we're rushing. Time is we're all time poor. There's always so much to do. I think it's giving employees or your team members this breathing space to actually stop and think. Encourage them that they're not going to face any consequences because they responded to an email or a Slack message or a team message 30 seconds, a minute, 3 minutes late. Giving them that space to stop and think. And what are they thinking about, Lucy? They're thinking about the intent and the purpose, and are they expecting it? I knew I was doing a podcast with you and I used your platform before. So I had no issues. But if I didn't, I stole this from my friend Rachel Tovak, but I would suggest employees, everyone, anyone, right, to be politely paranoid and just stop and think and ask, "Hey, Lucy, just checking. I got this email from you. I wasn't expecting it. Do you mind if I check if you sent it?" It's as simple as that. So I think it's less about coming down really hard on saying that, you can't or you shouldn't click on links. I think we need to train with empathy. And this one I made up. This one I really like. And that is, I don't, the carrot and the stick. I never use the stick. I believe in carrot, putting cream cheese on top, and let's make it a carrot cake.
Ah, I love that.
Yeah, because everyone just likes, no one likes to be told what to do. Everyone likes, just to be more gentle. And trust me when I say this, Lucy, every single person in this world is fishable. It's just the right message at the right time,
Yeah.
and you'll
It's a
fall for it.
vulnerability, isn't it? Like sometimes a friend of mine, it was a Thursday night, he was just having a glass of wine, wasn't paying attention, clicked on a link, and now he can't get into the tax system because he's clicked on something. And now every year when he has to file his taxes, he then has to call someone to then get a password,
Unlock it.
unlock it. It's now become a pain for the rest of his life. And that was just one time, one Thursday night, he was just a little bit loose probably in his like, cybersecurity. Just yeah, not as clear as he usually is. And then he just clicked on one bad link and then now he has to pay for it for his entire, working
I
career
know.
while he does
It,
his taxes. And it's really sad actually. But yeah, I
it
mean,
it is. And I think unfortunately, it's like most things, people don't think it'll happen to them.
That's right. Oh, he never
Yeah.
thought it would happen to him at
Yeah.
all, you know?
So that's
But
why
yeah.
I think, that's also another, cultural shift or mind shift. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that like, I know friends who never used to lock the front door because it's very safe,
Mm.
but then they get broken into and, I think they haven't realized things are no longer the same. Do
I
you know what I
know.
mean?
Well, when my parents first moved to Australia, they didn't lock their front door, and this was a while ago. And they just thought Australia was so safe. You don't have to lock the front door. And then we got broken into, and then afterwards, there's about 3 different locks on the front door now. So
And sometimes, like you said, it could be you don't lose any money,
yeah,
or it could be like your friend for the rest of his life. Every time he does his tap, it's going to be so much so much like trouble,
that's
a
right.
headache.
Yeah. And then, he said to me, "Do not click on anything, just stop and think, do not
Yeah.
this it's definitely very important and it's no joke." So
Mm.
one question I have is, just talking about no jokes, is it bad to use a public Wi-Fi? Because I fly around a bit, I'm sure you do too. Especially at airports, I've just seen, there's like shoulder surfers, people looking over people's shoulder. Public Wi-Fi. What do you have around, tips around that?
Yeah. So obviously the blanket rule is please don't use it.
Yeah.
But obviously that is quite hard, right? Especially if, you land and you need to grab an Uber and you don't have it. Now,
Mm.
obviously some practical things, I've now started doing it myself. I usually get roaming, but sometimes it doesn't work as soon as you get there. So I get a additional SIM card if your phone, allows it, like an eSIM. So I
Oh.
buy an eSIM before I land, so then it activated. However, if you are to have to use Wi-Fi, I think before you go, if you can, oh, well, first of all, when you use the public Wi-Fi, don't access your bank records. You know what I mean? Like, be safe.
Payment.
Bank details, payments. Always try and use things like PayPal. So with
Mm,
even Uber, you can actually connect it to PayPal. So they have a better buyer's protection. So if
mm.
anything was to happen, you have an extra layer. Like you can, go to PayPal. And I think the third thing is, if you can, is VPN.
Yeah,
So even though you have to use the public Wi-Fi, you have that layer of protection, which is
yeah.
VPN.
To insert yourself between, say, you and
Correct.
this bad actor.
That's right. Yes, and to explain, obviously, for those who may not be aware, the reason why we say don't use public Wi-Fi is it's very easily intercepted.
Mm.
Yeah,
And it's encrypted too, that's also why.
that's right, and encrypted, and because it's encrypted, it's very easily intercepted. You don't actually know who's having access to your traffic.
Mm,
Yeah,
mhm. So, you spoke a little bit about working from home and, we are post-COVID now and I'm at home right now and, I love working from home. So, what are some of the unique challenges for securing remote and hybrid workplaces? Uh,
yeah. I'm
there's a
also
lot.
Yes, I'm also from home. This is not a real background. My house unfortunately doesn't look like this, and I don't have whatever that is on the TV. I think definitely it poses a lot of unique challenges. I think it's how do you educate employees to have the same good security behaviors, or we call cyber hygiene behaviors, however you want to call them. But
Mm,
how do you have the same good behaviors at home and at work? Because I will be guilty and I'll say it. I live by myself, and when I go to the bathroom, I don't lock my device because I don't really need to, right? But I've seen a lot more of my colleagues doing the same in the office because they forget. I always get this wrong, Lucy. I don't remember if it's 21 or 23 or 27 times, but you need to do something like 20 plus times before it becomes a habit.
habit. Yeah. Yeah.
So if it becomes a habit for you not to lock your device, you're going to forget in the office.
Yeah. Well, in the office,
So yeah.
there are colleagues, you can say to your colleague, "Hey, if I forget to lock my device, can you write something funny or like,
Yeah.
do something?" And then so I'm
I learned it the hard way because in my old team, if you leave your device unlocked, they will send a free donut message to the team, and you have to bring a dozen donuts in.
See, I don't know.
Like,
I think people will be wanting to do that because they want to have the donuts,
well, I bought 2 lots of donuts in 2 weeks, and I learnt my lesson the hard way.
That's
So at least it was effective.
yeah, yeah. No, you need to have, like, some kind of pain, you know? I think having donuts actually kind of maybe it's like you gotta do 20 push-ups or something, and then
Yeah,
people will be
I
like,
like
"Oh
that
my god."
idea.
Thinking people will be thinking twice, like, before needing to, leave that open. But I agree with
Yeah.
you. I think, yeah, I mean, as you said, if you have, like, tradies or maybe for you, you've got support workers that comes into your home all the
Yeah.
time, hopefully they're not gonna touch your computer, but if they do, at least you know that it's a little bit more cyber
Yeah.
secure, cyber.
I mean, the other one is, during I don't have children, but, my friends who have children, they might give their laptop or their work phone to their child to play with, and it's not secure. They
Mm,
don't mean to, but they might have bought something, they might have looked at something, they might have clicked a link.
mm.
Yeah.
So, something I was reading recently, and it says that tech leaders of Fortune 500 companies have really highlighted about insider threats as being a top
Mm,
concern for
mm.
organizations. So, Tesla had a data leak in 2023 by two former employees that included production secrets and personal information of 75,000 employees, which is, pretty bad. So in your opinion, how do you overcome insider threats and bad actors internally?
Yeah, so definitely something to be concerned about. When I was working in government, I didn't realize this was a thing, but apparently a lot of the insider threats that we had in government were for political gain.
Yeah.
So as a public servant, you should be apolitical,
Yeah.
but a lot of people actually work government to get political knowledge and things. Insider threat can be hard because you want to give your new employees or existing employees a good experience, right? You don't want them to feel like they're criminals and every second there's no trust. But I think it's just more giving the right people the right access and removing it when they don't need it.
Right. So you
And
constantly have to be on top of that. But how do you do that when you've got, say, that 5,000 employees or, other organizations have 100,000 employees?
yeah, well, I think access control is really important. So obviously use technology to help you with that. Obviously the golden rule should be if they don't need access, don't provide it. I think again, remember what I said about being politely paranoid. I
Mm.
think to allow employees to be paranoid, but be polite as well. So for instance, I was in the office and someone was trying to get into the building, and she had a visitor lanyard, but as she was calling her colleagues, and I asked her, "Do you need help?" And she's like, "Yeah, I work at Medibank. I don't have my lanyard. There's no one at reception. I'm rushing to a meeting." And so I said, "I'm happy to help you, but are you able to please show me your login details, your manager on the laptop?" Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I still helped her, but I wasn't rude, but I definitely asked question. Can you please tell me your line manager? If I message your line manager to confirm, do you mind? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how isn't that social engineering when they, try to yeah, they trying to fish information and they try to well, you can explain it better than I can, but,
Yeah, yeah.
they're trying to get information out of you, and then, like, by pretending that, "Oh, I'm running late, I don't have time," then people are more likely to be rushed, and they just give you that access and that info.
Oh, I reckon I'm the best social engineer. See, people see the wheelchair and they just open doors,
Yeah.
letting you in. Yeah. But the other thing about, I think, talking about behaviors, you want to say, I think it's all about creating the culture of a safe environment and that people can report. So
Yeah.
I'm not reporting Lucy you because I think you're an insider, but I may feel comfortable enough to report Lucy's never, hung around the printer, but I noticed she was printing a lot of things. Do you know what I mean? Just so then you can be mindful, just to be aware and maybe monitor a little bit.
Mm.
Because unfortunately, a lot of people do become insider threat for many reasons, right? It
Yeah.
could be that they need the money for family or other reasons. But I also think we need to maybe do a little bit more background checking as well.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Mm.
think that is because last year. So I'm not sure if you or your listeners will know. So Know Before is one of the largest security awareness culture phishing tools software out there, and they hired someone from North Korea.
Who's this, sorry?
Know Before.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Kinda
So what
illegal.
Yeah,
It's
so
because they didn't do their background checks to their employees that they hired. Wow.
yeah, and it's really hard because what they now are doing is everything checks out though. They did go to college and university somewhere.
Yeah.
They come in, they look understated,
Yeah.
but so these bad actors, what they are now doing is they infiltrate and get someone to actually become an employee, and
Mm.
then they get access to all your systems, and they don't do their day job, and then you eventually may fire them, but you'd already given them 1 month, 3 months worth of access to your systems.
Wow.
So
Who do you believe? What do you trust anymore? It's so hard.
it is so hard. It is so hard, but it's okay. That's why hopefully I will have a job for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think you'll be fine. So there were headlines made in 2023 when a woman was fired from a major insurance company because of her keystroke activity was a minimum. And keystroke activity is when you are not typing on your keyboard. So my question here is, there's one thing about employee monitoring and using all these technologies, but what about privacy concerns, et cetera, as well? So Daisy, what do you think about balancing privacy concerns versus spying on your employees?
Yeah, it is something that you want to strike a balance because again, we're all adults. We're all hired to perform a job.
Mm.
I'm a strong believer of outputs over time. Like, I don't do me, when I've managed people or even myself, I'm very output focused. So I think as long as you get your work done within a reasonable amount of time, I don't really mind how many strokes you do, right? But I think there are privacy concerns because, two employees, two colleagues are entitled to have a conversation. And I do believe harmless venting is healthy. So it is hard to balance. I think, when it comes to privacy, there's always, the Privacy Act to help guide you, and then also what you have in the code of conduct. But I do believe, you need to trust your employees as much as they trust, their work life in your hands as well as the organization.
Yeah, I think it's a two-way street, right? So obviously
100%.
you want to work for an organization that trusts you to be, a good employee. And you can't feel like you're going to be babysat all the time. But at the same time, like, you need to also work.
That's right.
Not be on TikTok or something for during, yeah, whatever you need to do. So yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. So all around the world, there's been high profile data breaches that's been happening. So, there's a very big famous Yahoo data breach of 3 billion accounts, can you believe, between 2013 and 2016. And then Facebook also had data set exposure in 2019 where they had more than 500 million users who leaked their phone numbers, names, and emails as well. So what do you think companies can do to protect people's information better? And then how do these changes look like in practice?
I think most organizations do have their customers' interests at heart. Like, they do try their best to protect data.
Mm.
I think sometimes, the threat actors, I do feel for us, organizations, only because I think we have a lot more rules, processes, and governance to follow. So bad actors don't have a board. They don't have to do bullet paper. They
Yeah.
can, they can attack whenever they want. They can
Yeah.
release updates whenever they want. And then while we have to make sure there's a cycle, there's a cab, there's a board, there's the this and there's a that. I do think, with those large breaches that you mentioned, I think what's become better, I think we're now understanding the value of data. So I think people never used to understand the value of their data, that they would just give it away, email, you know what I mean? And it's okay to give an email if you want to win a free car, free holiday. But
Or
my
if it's
top tip,
convenient, because a lot of people do that. Like
yeah,
convenience
I would
is confidentiality.
exactly right. And I think the top tip for that is have different emails. Do
Right.
not use the same one, right? Like if you're I use the same one for Mecca, Sephora, Hell, uh, Showpo, all my
Yeah.
stuff is one email.
Yeah.
And then all my, medical, banking is a different email. So I think
Ah.
so separate it.
So
So
how
the
many
emails
emails
is
do
your
you have then, Daisy?
4?
Do you?
I have
Interesting.
4. Yeah, to separate everything. And, and I'm guilty of this, but I really need to change that email. But, the one that you use to shop, have less detail. You don't need to have your full name in that. You're not applying for a job.
That's right.
Sephora don't need your full name. Do not have your full name on the
What
email.
about if I give him my birthday so I can get a free gift,
It's a risk you bear. It's a risk you pay for. Or just change a few days. Or you know what? Make your birthday a month early so you enjoy it a month earlier.
Oh,
That
I
you
like
don't.
that. That is a
Yeah.
smart move.
Yeah. So I think, but yeah, going back to data breaches, I think most organizations are trying their best. There's a lot of new technology to help. I think there's a lot more support. I think in the past, the board didn't have any fiduciary duties about cyber. So I
Mm.
think now they do. So I think a lot of organizations are getting the funding they need to better protect and prevent data breaches.
Yeah, it's definitely become one of the most important issues that certainly on boards of
Mm.
all the C-suite executives that I know. Everyone is not been sleeping well at night because they're so afraid that they're going to be cyber hacked at some point,
Yeah.
or have their data breached. So yeah, I mean, I think all of these are, it's hard to protect yourself, especially the larger you get. There's more doors that you just don't know, you can't always protect, to be honest. I think it's easier when
That's
it's
right.
smaller, and then the bigger you get, the more people there are, it becomes harder. Uh,
That's right. And the attrition, right? The turnover rate, people come, people go, doors are spun up and left, open without you knowing.
that's right.
So yeah.
Okay, so let's talk more about you. You're a woman with a disability in tech industry. I'd love to know how you, how you feel about this. Has this affected you or your career ever at all? Especially in cybersecurity, because I know that cybersecurity is more welcome. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, let me rewind for your listeners first, because for those who are wondering, I wasn't in an accident. I was born with a tumor in my lower spine, and when they removed it, it caused spinal cord injury, damage. I don't know the difference, but to simply put it, whatever Dylan Alcott has is kind of what I have. I
Ah,
can use my name and hear me in a sentence.
love him.
So
Is a very famous tennis player for the ones who don't know who he is.
wheelchair tennis player.
Wheelchair tennis player, yeah, and
Yeah.
basketball
So
player.
oh, yes, that's right. But yeah, so in terms of being a woman with a disability in the tech and cyber industry, it's definitely hindered me at times. I have gone to interviews where the hiring manager literally asked me questions that were not related to my experience or skill, but she was asking how I could come to work, how I could make a cup of tea and get back to my desk.
Oh, wow, that's a bit rude.
And I was like, "Wow, okay, so all my years of studying, all the skills I've acquired, and all my experience was not even comparable to whether or not I was able to make myself a cup of tea."
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, so that's definitely in terms of, is the cybersecurity industry more welcoming? I think overall technology it is, because we are able to work from home and perform our jobs quite well from home, because we have good internet, good devices now. I think, unfortunately, I'm very open and honest, Lucy. I've had some negative experiences of people underestimating me because I'm not technical, because I'm female. I have heard comments of, I don't think Daisy can handle it because too demanding maybe for her body.
Wow.
There's a lot of assumptions made about disabled people, physically disabled people, and I just wanted to point out I can only talk from a wheelchair user. I don't, from my understanding, I'm not neurodivergent. Do you know what I mean? I don't have other issues, so I can't speak on behalf of other disabilities. But
Yeah.
for myself and overall, I think a lot of people have a lot of assumptions about disabled people, what they can and can't do.
How do you
So
think you can change these assumptions? Like, it's something that I think about. And yeah, like, you're an incredible advocate in this space. Like, what do you think needs to happen to be able to change some of these
yeah,
assumptions?
I think we need to support people with a disability, or anyone really who has special needs. Just
Mm.
because a woman needs to leave work or to pick up their children at 3 to log back on at 7, it doesn't mean they're going to provide you any less output.
That's right.
The hours they work and how they work is a little bit different. So for me, I go into the office about twice a week. I could probably do 3, but any more than 3, it really does impact my pain levels and my quality of life because of driving in. I have to drive with my hands because my car's modified. So it's how do you make these adjustments, but not make that person feel like an exception and that they treat it differently. And also, I think, it goes both ways again. So I think, a lot of the times organizations that I've spoken to are like, we want to hire, someone with a disability or any needs, but we don't know what to do. And I always say, just ask.
Mm.
I will tell you what I'm comfortable with, and you can tell me what you can provide as well.
Mm. I do feel
Yeah.
that some people are afraid to ask. That's the problem, isn't it? And hence why they're
Yeah.
jumping with assumptions.
Yeah, I think maybe society has made it really uncomfortable. I think, in Melbourne at least or Victoria, we have the traffic accident commissioner. So, the ads on TV when people drink and drive, and the
Mm.
consequence is a wheelchair.
Oh,
So I
that's
think there's,
where,
you
but I
know
don't
what I
think
mean?
that's always the case. Like, that just maybe that's also part, like, that's an unfortunate marketing play that makes you think that, well, if you drink and drive, you're going to be in a wheelchair, which I think is very negative message.
Yeah, and that's right. And like, I don't think a wheelchair itself is a negative thing.
No.
Do you know what I mean? I don't see it any different to wearing glasses if you have
Yeah.
short sighted. It's
Yeah.
just one is glasses, one is wheelchair.
Mm.
Yeah. So I think, in terms of what we can do to improve, I think, that's why I'm very, very, very passionate about advocating. And, I hope any other little girl or little boy with a disability or anyone,
Mm.
because when I was younger, like in the industry, I did not see someone like myself. Like I don't think there was a lot of diversity, if I had to be honest with you.
Mm.
And it takes a lot. Like it's taken me, a while to get so comfortable talking about my disability, my vulnerabilities, and admitting that I do need to work a little bit different, but I'm not worthless because I work differently.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to other, little girls and women who are looking at cybersecurity as an industry?
Yeah. There's trust me, it's reported day in, day out. We have a skills shortage. So I promise you there is space for everyone.
Mm.
And I think compared to other industries, like my best friend who's a nurse, it is probably more accessible. Do you know what I mean? You can perform your job at home. It is a hard industry sometimes to crack. Like the first job is always hard, but don't give up. And I'm always happy to chat to whoever wants to. But yeah, don't give up and just know that this industry needs you and there's a lot of space.
Love that. That's so good. Hopefully you'll come in and be motivated by Daisy.
Yeah.
So I'd love to talk about the future and get your thoughts around that. So what do you think the future will look like for human-centric cybersecurity? There's heaps of AI, machine learning, and deepfakes, and they're talking about how this is changing the landscape. Do you think it's actually changing for better or for worse?
Oh, that's a really hard question to answer. I reckon it's going to be for the worse and then eventually the better.
Ah.
So, so it's always worse first because I think we spoke about it before. But the bad actors always, get to use the technology first. They don't need to test it.
Yeah.
Again, they don't need to ask the manager. They don't have to go through change. They can just bang use it. So I think it is gotten worse first because if you think about it, in the past, I would always tell, educate when you if how to spot a phishing email, bad grammar, bad spelling mistake, attachments, etc. But now with the likes of AI, it takes milliseconds to
Mm,
draft a very, very well written email
mm.
that there is no like you can't use the look for grammar, look for
Yeah.
uh,
Can't
spelling
even tell the
mistakes.
difference. Like, not only just email and text, it's now voice and imagery, with
And
deepfake. You can't
yeah,
even tell at all, so
that's
it's
right. So
big
I
change,
think it is
actually.
getting worse. And, a lot of people may or may not know, but, last year a CFO in Hong Kong lost 25 million because of a deep fake.
No, he wasn't a CFO, he was
No,
a
it wasn't.
worker. He was just a finance worker, and he was in a meeting with all these executives. What he thought was the executives said, "Yes, transfer this $25 million US." and they all turn out to be deep fakes. So,
Yeah, see?
yeah,
And it is really easy to make these deep fakes because, we're doing our voice and video right now,
yeah,
and then you upload that, and then that is used as the basis for the machine and deepfake to learn. So I think for me, it's going to get worse, but then it will get better because I think AI will be able to do things I can't. So for instance, when employees are, you know how when you send an email and then you say I've attached and then you don't, and then there's a pop up that
yeah,
says
yeah,
you've
yeah.
attached.
Have you?
I think we're going to start seeing AI do that for Slack messages, for, to be like, hey, you've just provided Lucy your birthday. Is that what you want to do? I think it's all these nudges.
Yeah, I think AI will be used for personalized security measures, like,
Yes,
kind of,
100%.
or what you're just talking about, to the individual behaviors within organizations and within your workflow, I think.
That's right.
So that's probably a positive of AI, but then there's all these, scariness and deepfakes that, everyone's talking about as well. And the ones who don't know, I have already done an episode about deepfakes on the Emerging Tech Unpacked podcast. Please take a listen or watch it. It's really fascinating and it'll blow your mind. So, what about future trends like, in cybersecurity? What are you excited about and why?
Oh, well, this whole episode is about human-centric, so I think I'm really excited that it's now, I think, become I've seen more and more roles being hired for this human-centric, so I'm really excited that I feel like we're finally getting the spotlight a little bit.
Yeah.
So, 10, 12 years ago, this role didn't exist. You would have compliance officers, you might do an e-learn module once a year, and that was it, right? And then it
Security training.
Yep, your annual cybersecurity training, that's it. And then we moved into awareness, and I spoke about it before. That's very one way, me telling you, right? And then it became culture building, which is real, like, your attitudes and beliefs towards, cybersecurity, but also rewarding the good behaviors like reporting and changing your password, etc. But I think now we're finally at a human-centric security, and it goes back to, the first question you asked me, or the earlier question, which is what is human-centric security? And I think this is when we're putting the human in the center.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Um,
And so I'm really excited. I'm really excited to be in the center. Not on
yeah.
the side, not embedded somewhere else, in the center.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's an emerging tech, isn't it? So, that it's not just technology, it's a human as well.
That's right.
Which is really exciting. I think the some of the biometrics would be quite interesting as well, talking about humans and tech.
Yeah. And is it safer to use your iris or your fingerprint, or is it safer to use a password that no one knows? Because, if
Yeah.
someone gets your
Oh, I think
fingerprint.
it's a combination, isn't it? That you can use
Yeah.
your password plus, your eye iris or your fingerprint as well. Yeah, and
I'm waiting for the day when we all just have a chip in our arm.
a chip in your arm.
Yeah, I reckon
Yeah,
it's
wouldn't
going
that
to.
be if you have the same chip as somebody else, wouldn't that defeat the purpose?
No, I feel like it'll get to a point where we'll have a chip in our arm, or like a chip that just identifies us.
That's true. Yeah.
Mm.
To avoid the password. I think the password at some point definitely will have to go.
I think so. I think so. I feel like, we are getting better with pass keys, and
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like less
Yeah.
about passwords, but yeah, like you said, it's always a combination.
Mm, mm. So, we're getting towards the end. What is your number one tip you'd like to give others to be more cybersecurity aware?
Create a safe word, a proof word, a private word, whatever you want, a word with your family, your colleagues, especially when it comes to money, your children, elderly family, siblings, and friends. And why I say that, because as much as we talk about, being careful, there are going to be deep fakes, there
Yeah.
are going to be AI, it's going to be hard for you to decipher. So when you have a safe word between two people, you
Yeah.
can quickly decipher whether or not that person is legitimate.
Interesting. So you have to so there'll be a different channel, right? You're not in the meeting and like you'll be somewhere else. You've already
Yep,
established a safe word and then you go to a meeting before you send $25 million. You
exactly.
say the safe word and then you
Yeah,
do it.
yeah.
Okay. Got
Because it's really easy for us, to like you said, have a deep fake of your, or how you look, your voice, your mannerisms,
mm,
but you need to ask them a question or confirm, with the safe word. So then, you know that it's legitimate.
mm, mm.
Because no one's going to answer, hey, Lucy, you sound different. Are you trying to scam me? Do I make it up? Yeah,
A question I ask a lot more in the future.
yeah, but I feel like if you and I had a safe word,
Yeah.
whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
Then I know it's true. So, for instance, I think you mentioned before that there's a childcare center near you.
Yeah.
If I say, "Have you moved? Are there still?" And I'm trying to prompt you to say the word childcare or children, then I know
Yeah.
it's you.
Yeah. 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 I
Yeah.
love it.
And unfortunately, we're still not there yet where computers can decipher whether this is real Lucy or deepfake Lucy. So if technology is not going to help me, I'm going to have to help myself with a safe word.
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna have to help yourself. I love that. I think the other one is, and I think this is a pretty popular one, but enabling before we get also safe word, enabling multiple factor authentication.
Multi-factor authentication.
Again, I think password probably will be on the out, and but in the interim, I think we need to do whatever we can to make sure that we are securing ourselves, and I do think MFAs will be very important. So
100%. Yeah. And, you'll rather have short-term pain for long-term gain. So
correct.
the short-term pain of you entering another code, MFA, is still a lot better. Even, however milliseconds add up to how many minutes and hours you have to spend MFAing,
Yeah,
you're still going to be better off than having to change your bank account details, have your Facebook account hacked, or your friend with a tax office.
yeah. So it's kind of like a safe word, but just a digital version, and
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly.
Yeah, maybe they've already got that, like, the scammers or the hackers already have that, so it might be good if you go back to a safe word as well, so you need to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. So it's more like multi-factor then.
Yeah,
We've
that's
got the
it.
password, we've got MFA, and then we've got the safe word.
And you've got your fingerprint and you've got your eyeballs as well, so anyhow.
Pretty secure.
That's how you credibly secure yourself. Final question, Daisy. If other people are very interested to reach out to you and to hear from you, how can they do that?
LinkedIn is the best way. So it's Daisy Wong. I think, Lucy, will you include the link into the show notes?
Yeah,
Yep. So yeah, so LinkedIn is the best way. Feel free to drop me a message, DM me, and I'll definitely respond. And I'm more than happy to have a chat.
fantastic. Well, Daisy, I really enjoyed our conversation today, and hopefully, we are all going to be more cyber security aware now. Uh, and I certainly learned a lot about human-centric cybersecurity. I think it's a fascinating topic, especially all your experience and your knowledge. We spoke about redundancies, we spoke about you having a physical disability, and we spoke about you being an incredible woman in cybersecurity. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us on the Emerging Tech Unpacked podcast.
Thank you so much, Lucy, for having me and giving me a bit of a platform to share my story. And I just really hope to inspire anyone, but definitely those maybe with additional needs or disability that, if I can do it, you can too. And if they need a bit of help, we're here to help.
Excellent. Thank you, Daisy.
Thank you.
So, how great was that conversation with Daisy? I absolutely loved it. I think she's such an excellent example of someone who's highly knowledgeable in cybersecurity and yet is such a great advocate for disability. As someone who has a physical disability, she is not letting that slow her down at all. And I really, really, really admire her. I also loved her recommendations about creating a safe word with your family and your colleagues. I think that's really, really important because there is so much fraud in the age of deepfakes and AI scams that we all have to look after ourselves. And Daisy and I both face role redundancies. I want to know, and I want to let you know that if your role is being made redundant, it's not about you, it's not about your skills or your positive mindset or your resilience. Now, Daisy and I have both faced role redundancies in our career, and there is no shame in having a role being made redundant anymore. I would say, please pick yourself up and keep going, because I think something else bigger and better will be coming your way soon. Honestly, just look at the two of us, we are in a much better place post our redundancies. Now for the fun stuff. For more information about the latest episodes and how you can contact us for sponsorship, promotion, and guest speaking collaborations, visit our website, emergingtechunpacked.com. We're available in audio format on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can also watch us on YouTube. And we have bonus content there, so I highly recommend you do. Make sure you also tap that notification bell so you can be informed of the latest episode drops that happen as well. We're very active on social media, so make sure you subscribe, like, and follow us on our social media channels: Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Facebook to stay updated with the latest news and content. To get in contact with me, you can find me on LinkedIn, searching for Lucy Lin. And I welcome all feedback. I'll be very grateful if you can help us grow and spread the word by forwarding this episode to a friend. And please give us a 5-star review. Thank you so much for your attention. I really hope I've unpacked human-centric cybersecurity for you to really get a better understanding of this important field of technology for you. Again, my name is Lucy Lin, and this has been the Emerging Tech Unpacked podcast. Until next time, stay cyber aware, and remember, every setback can lead to an incredible comeback.